everybody? We're the Real Cinema Squad. I'm Roman. That's Ty. That's Austin over there. And today we have something special for you. It's going to be controversial because this is our episode on unpopular movie opinions. We did kind of throw this back and forth before we recorded. It's going to get intense. So I'm just going to open this up to whoever wants to share theirs first. I have a lot, but I'm going to let one of these guys start.
Ooh, pick me.
Austin, go for it.
Sweet.
Pick Austin.
I think Avatar is a terrible movie.
I'm actually right there with you. For 09, what it gave us as far as CGI and all that stuff was awesome.
Agreed.
But I actually didn't watch it until like 2016 or 2018. It made it past me, and when I did, I was like, this is what everybody like. Because what time led you believe is that like, oh, you know, the CGI, every movie looks like that now, and the story just is not. The story's not there.
Right. Let me explain myself. Movie comes out in 09. People are hyping up the 3D aspect of it. You have to see it in 3D. I go to AMC theaters. I think I was with a friend. Went and saw it, and I get out of that movie, and I'm just like, it literally was Pocahontas with blue people. Pocahontas aliens.
Legit though.
That's literally how it felt. And you know,
Blueberry Pocahontas.
I think what drove me crazy about the movie, it was like visually appealing. I thought it was innovative in the way that the visuals were, and all the things that they did, the planets, the transferring from the humans into being Avatar, like all that kind of stuff. But it just seemed like another generic sci-fi movie to me. It didn't have like that same type of gravitas that like something like Lord of the Rings or Star Wars or whatever would have with it. And I just thought that like what just seemed very dramatic for something that was just another sci-fi movie with aliens and the same type of storyline of there's a planet, and of course that planet gets found out about humans, and then humans go and attack it to try to steal their resources. Like, we've seen that played out so many times.
Yeah.
And what was even weirder to me is the whole like the way that they procreated was like their tails come out and they like do this thing, and I'm just like, then it was just like that whole scene between him and the Zoe Saldana's character was just this weird like intimacy scene with like blue people and their tails, and I'm just like, I don't understand this movie.
The thing is, it's James Cameron, and a lot of the James Cameron stuff is spectacle over substance. Not to say that his stuff didn't. A lot of his stuff didn't have substance, but he, much like Michael Bay, is like, let's give you the best thing you can see, and then all the other stuff is in the background. Not to say that it's not there. It's just secondary.
Well, let's be honest. You're not going to the movie for some just incredible screenplay. I didn't go to Star Wars for the incredible script.
The dialogue's not the greatest.
The dialogue is not the greatest in Star Wars,
Yeah.
but I love Star Wars.
Yeah.
So I would argue with you that the whole point is it is a spectacle. It was $1 billion movie for a reason. It was something that was greater than anything else of its time.
And that's my main point, is that first, Star Wars was made for children, so the dialogue wasn't going to be. Avatar, not really. And at the time, because it was such a spectacle, and it's like, oh, this is awesome. But time has not been kind to that movie, because as the spectacle decreases because of where we are now with CGI, people are bringing the plot to the forefront and be like, hey, you know what, this isn't that good.
So I disagree.
Okay.
And this is why I disagree.
That's the point.
I, for one, love the fact that they took a Marine that was stripped of his legs, could no longer fight, and gave him another chance to be a warrior. And his heart was pure. His heart was right. And he got an opportunity to make a difference. He fell in love with a native people. And he fell in love with their ways. And then he turned on his own.
Yeah.
And the reason he turned on his own is because he found the error in their ways. I thought the villain was good in Avatar. I thought that there was fighting for a purpose. You were fighting to preserve this beautiful land. And they were trying to strip the land of all of its minerals and resources. So, yes, is that been a storyline before? Yes. It's not something that's completely original or just super nuanced or anything like that. But I thought the CGI was incredible. The imagery was breathtaking. The soundtrack to me was really cool. If you haven't gone to Disney and ridden Flight of Passage,
I was just about to say this. I would say one of the best things that have come out of that movie is the land at Disney World.
yes,
I think it looks really cool.
It's immersive.
And the Flight of the Passage ride is one of the coolest theme park rides ever created.
it is my favorite ride. It literally,
super
if
cool.
you haven't been on it, you smell the smells, you see the sights, you literally feel like you are on a Banshee, and it's a 4-minute long ride. So you literally get to experience Pandora, which is really, really cool.
Well, I'll say this real quick before we move on to our next opinion. I respect that, and it's like you said, it is a spectacle, and you don't go for a script, but I feel like there wasn't the depth of story that you would expect. Like that one of the reasons I don't like most Jason Statham movies is because
It's the same.
The movie starts, and he's just mad and just beating up a bunch of people. And a lot of times it's like, okay, well, why is he mad? Who is that? Sometimes I'll watch a Jason Statham movie and it's like opening seconds. It's already happening, and you're like, where is the story? What's the problem? I don't understand it. And there were some great things in Avatar, but I don't think it stands the test of time for how big a spectacle it was at the moment that it came out.
Listen, I'll say this. I think the performances were great.
Yes.
Sam Worthington is an underrated actor.
Yeah, he is.
He's not enough, in my opinion. Zoe Saldana is great. Gideon Sigourney Weaver was solid, which obviously makes sense because James Cameron did Aliens, and so I think that was all good. I just think that more people gravitated to that movie because of the spectacle beyond the substance.
Sure.
I can see where you're coming from in some of the opinions about the story and that kind of thing, but I think that's where I kind of was at. It was just like there was other movies at that time that I was still in high school. There were other movies at that time, like Iron Man just came out a year before.
Sure.
The Dark Knight was around that time. There were other movies that I was like, those are awesome. Avatar was one of those. I was like, nah.
Yeah.
So.
And I will take that because you said I'll have to disagree with you. That's the point of this. It'd be kind of boring if it was unpopular opinions and we all agreed. But I am going, and we're not saying that Avatar as a movie was just totally terrible. Which brings me to my next movie, which is one I can safely say one of my least favorite movies I've ever seen.
Don't do it, Roman.
Not that one yet. We'll get there.
Okay.
Fight Club. I think it is one of the most overrated movies, and I know people love it, and that's why we're talking about it right now.
But wait, they say you can't talk about Fight
Except
Club.
we are, and what are they going to do?
It's one of the rules, dude.
It is what it.
You literally broke the one rule of the movie.
But that's one of my points. They constantly say,
Don't break the rules,
we don't
Roman."
talk about Fight Club, and then that's all they do for the entire movie. And I watched that movie, and I thought that was a waste of my life for 2 hours. I don't even have a lot to say about it, because that's how much I viscerally hated this movie.
I think that it was spectacular performances.
There it is.
Spectacular performances. Okay? The acting in it was incredible. I think, and this is going to be in one of our future episodes, talking about a plot twist or a surprise. Like, I had no idea that Brad Pitt was all in his mind. I didn't know that. I don't know if y'all did. I can't remember when I actually watched it.
I mean, if you did, I think it was a plot twist. If you did, it would kind of defeat the entire purpose of the movie.
Like, that's a fascinating idea to me. Like, you talk about having substance. That movie had substance.
Actually, I don't disagree with that. I think
Is it my favorite movie?
they subverted.
No.
They subverted.
Austin knows how much I hate this movie.
Yeah, I do. They subverted expectations, I think. And I think it was, back then, that was kind of a time of movies where things were still original and things were still kind of doing their own thing
That's
and
another future
trying
episode.
different things. So I felt like that movie, the reason it's so iconic, because it was so different than other things. Like, I mean, you obviously, you had other fighting movies like Rocky.
Right.
But Fight Club was like complete opposite of that.
Yeah.
And so I feel like just the way that they subverted your expectations with that twist and with the story and with the character dynamics, it was different than some people had seen before.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think the biggest thing in that movie is Brad Pitt's performance. I would say that's the shining element of that. And so I don't really have anything else to say about it other than
For me, the
that.
thing about it, though, was like, again, that was a movie that I didn't see for a while. And so for a period of time, I felt like Fight Club was this cultural touchstone that like other shows and movies talked about, and it was all over the place. So I was like, okay, let's finally watch Fight Club. And I watched it, and I was like, this was it? Are you kidding me? Like, it just didn't do anything for me. And I actively dislike it, which is not something that I feel about movies a lot. Like, I have a pretty high tolerance of like, it was pretty good. It wasn't the best. There are very few movies I actively dislike, and Fight Club's at the top.
Okay, I actually do have an unpopular opinion that goes along with Fight Club.
Okay, we'll go with you.
And it's that Edward Norton is not that great of an actor.
Yeah.
I love Brad Pitt. That's why I like Fight Club. But I do not like Edward Norton. I hated him as the Hulk.
One of the reasons that didn't do well, and one of the reasons he was replaced, was because he was difficult, supposedly, on that, and he rewrote the script without telling anybody, and you could feel that. And there's been reports that he's been difficult to work with in the past. We talk about how much we love The Prestige on this channel, and the Illusionist came out around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I think The Prestige is the better movie, but I think The Illusionist is easier to follow. I thought that Edward Norton was great in The Illusionist, and Jessica Biel as well. But I would tend to agree with you there that he's not my favorite. He's not somebody that it's going to be like Edward Norton in, and I'm going to be like, oh, I have to go see that. Like, it's never.
But I also think that Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale
are far superior.
Far superior.
That's why I said Prestige is the better movie.
Yeah.
But The Illusionist is a cleaner story. Prestige is far the superior movie experience. But The Illusionist is very good, and he was very good in it.
Leading into another unpopular opinion, I want to talk about Ben Affleck for a second as Batman. And I know that he caught a lot of heat.
I didn't like him as Batman.
As Batman, and that's okay. That's okay.
Right back there.
I don't know if you can see back there, but old Benny Boy is back there on my wall, okay? So I was actually a fan of Batman vs. Superman. I know a lot of people did not like it as much as I liked it.
If you take out Martha, how do you know that name? It's a fine movie. But that's one of the worst lines that's ever been uttered in a movie.
Was he the best Bruce Wayne? No. In my opinion, he was a great Batman. Yeah. Very comic accurate. But it was cool to see super Jack Batman and kind of like a violent side. Robin's dead.
I was gonna say he's vengeful.
He's a darker version of Batman. And that shows in the way that he fights. When he goes to save Superman's mother, Martha. When he goes to save Martha, he absolutely destroys those guys in that fight scene. Yeah. And that is one of my favorite all-time Batman action sequences. And so that's probably one of my unpopular opinions, is that I was truly looking forward to a solo Ben Affleck Batman film where he got to fight against Deathstroke.
Mm-hmm.
I was so disappointed that didn't happen. I was so looking forward to Joe Manganiello as Deathstroke.
That's what I'm saying.
And I am devastated that
it would have been a really good movie.
I personally think that Zack Snyder, they should just let him run it, even though there was some things in there that were kind of iffy. But having Ben Affleck, even though I didn't prefer him as Batman, I will say that in terms of, like you were saying, the comic book accuracy, the fighting and the brutality was the best.
I will say,
love the Dark Knight and the Dark Knight trilogy, but I would think that, the fighting style of that was the first time we actually got to see the brutality of Batman and his vengeance.
And don't get me wrong, I still hold Bale as my favorite Batman.
Yeah.
He'll forever be my favorite Batman, even of Keaton, and I know that's probably an unpopular opinion to some folks.
I think you said before we recorded this that you said that's your favorite fight scene in all of DC movies, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's up there.
I would disagree with it being the best, just on the standpoint of I thought the fights between Christian Bale's Batman and Bane in the street, and then also Henry Cavill as Superman versus Michael Shannon's General Zod, where he forces him to kill him to save it. I was like, that just gets me every time.
And the reason I love Batman is Batman doesn't have superpowers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
okay?
He's just a guy.
I can relate to him more than I can relate to any other superhero, because in my mind, that's something that I could be. Am I a billionaire? No. But could I teach myself to be, smarter? Could I be a philanthropist? Could I secretly, train and become the Dark Knight? I fell in love at a young age with Batman, and from the animated series to all the Tim Burton films to Christian Bale and Nolan, and I just love Batman.
I will say one of the reasons I was so disappointed in the Batfleck thing not continuing is, as I mentioned, as the Deathstroke, because I'm not as big into the animated stuff as you two are. I like it, but one of my favorite kind of individual storylines was in The Son of Batman, with the part of it that was Deathstroke versus Ra's al Ghul. And then also Manu Bennett's portrayal of Deathstroke in the Arrow series made me fall in love with that character. And then having them cast Joe Manganiello was picture perfect, and I
Yeah.
was so ready, and all we got was that one little glimpse at the end of what was it, the Snyder
on
Cut
the
of
boat,
Justice League?
on the
yeah,
boat,
the-
yeah.
And I was so disappointed.
Yeah,
But
that got me hype.
speaking of the
Was it
animated stuff,
so good?
the new Batman series coming out soon, and we'll do a reaction to that as it comes.
Of
but-
course we will.
but I want to get to one more unpopular opinion, and then a last opinion that's a message to Hollywood. But before we do that, I'm sorry, Ty.
Oh,
but
gosh.
my last unpopular opinion, and there's a very good reason for this, and I know this is not going to go over well. I already know, and that's why it's an unpopular opinion, is I am not a fan, not as strongly as Fight Club, but I am not a fan at all of the Jim Carrey live-action How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
What? Are you kidding me?
Take this.
Okay.
I'm leaving. We're done. This is it. Roman, you're no longer part of the Cinema Squad.
My mom is a huge fan of the Grinch, always has been. So we grew up on the original animated Chuck Jones cartoon. We had the cassette tape that we would listen to on the way to Christmas at the grandparents', and it was ingrained in us. We know every word to every song. I love Jim Carrey. I love Jim Carrey.
Do you, Roman? Do you really love Jim Carrey?
Do you want to finish this?
No.
It's one of his best portrayals.
Okay, and I respect it, and I respect the torture he went through. But for me, it was a 30-minute story. I felt like they opened it up a bit too much. I felt like they made the people in Whoville creepy, and it was not for me at all. I grew up on the animated, the original. I love it. It holds a very special place in my heart. The live-action Grinch, as much as I love Jim Carrey, does absolutely nothing for me. Go ahead.
Who wants to go first?
I already know what's coming. Go ahead.
Who wants to go first?
I think it's very clear that this is all you. I mean, I'm sure Austin's got his thoughts. but
Listen.
Oh, I'm listening.
This is one of those movies that's at least in the top 5 Christmas movies of all time that people watch every year, including myself.
It's in my top 2.
The way that they made that world in live action, they don't really make sets and movies like that anymore.
No.
Looks incredible. Jim Carrey is so bombastic
Oh, it
and
was
so
Ron
funny
Howard. It's fantastic. but
that
I
he
just-
made that character shine. Yes, it wasn't like the animated stuff, but I'm just saying.
It was better.
Jim Carrey, I would rather watch the Jim Carrey one than the animated one anytime. Because to me, you actually got a fleshed out story with like Cindy Lou. Who? Exactly. The stuff with the mayor and the Grinch and their rivalry was hilarious. Plus, the stuff in his cave where he's like making jokes and echoing at himself is so funny. And the way they trained that dog just
I
to
will say,
react to all the stuff he did.
I think the one thing every adult can relate to is that scene in the cave where he's like, 6 p.m., self-loathing. You know, that where he's listing that
He's like,
stuff up.
Am I eating because I'm bored?
I'm an idiot! You're an idiot!
The older you get, the more related the Grinch as a character becomes, and not just Jim Carrey, but just the character of the Grinch. But for me, you know, I knew this was an unpopular opinion, so you know, it is what it is. And that's the point of this video. But I grew up with the animated stuff. It holds a special place for me because of how my mom feels about it. And I'm not the only one in my family that doesn't care for that movie. I do appreciate, you know, the set and the direction because it was Ron Howard.
He's backpedaling.
No, I'm saying I appreciate parts of it, but it's not for me. I think both animated versions for me are better than the live action.
Dude.
That's the point of this video, guys.
This video, I'm going to turn your take into a reel and you watch. We're going to post it just by itself and you're going to get destroyed.
Bring it.
Hate mail.
That's
Hate mail's
the point.
coming.
That's the point of the video.
That's
the
you
point.
win. You win the unpopular opinion. You win, Roman. You win. You win. You
All
win.
hail
you
the
win,
Grinch hater.
Because I cannot believe. I'm just going to call you the Grinch for hating the Grinch. That is like fighting words in my family. I have to fight my kids from watching the Grinch all year long.
We don't talk about
And I have to
Fight Club.
fight my wife from wanting to watch the Grinch all year long because I try to save her like right after Thanksgiving till Christmas is done. We'll watch the Grinch so much.
Oh, and I warned your wife right before we started filming this video. I was like, just so you know what I'm about to say. And she was equally as unhappy with me as you were. But we could do a whole video on just that opinion. But we're gonna wrap this up. Before we do, and I think this we can all agree on. This last thing. Are you good? You ready to move on?
We can move on. It's fine. The more I talk, the angrier I'll get.
Exactly. That's why I'm ready to move on.
I have no words.
The last thing, and I think we can all agree on this, but this is an unpopular opinion, and I'm talking straight to the producers in Hollywood, and I'm talking straight to the directors, and everybody in all those writers' guilds and all the screen act, everybody. Have an original thought. Stop making remakes, sequels, adaptations. We're in an era now of cinema where I can't remember the last original movie that hasn't been created before in some medium was. You know, some of the biggest movies recently, the Avengers stuff, that's like movie 40 and 41 in a universe. Top Gun Maverick. Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare was a book. All of these things, and The Fall Guy, which you said was great, was based on an 80s TV show. Have an original thought. There's a difference between being derivative and not having original thought, because a lot of ideas have already happened. There are a few ideas or basic ideas that haven't been done. But the thing is that if you're like, all right, I want to do a movie about this, you're creating the characters. You're creating the point of view from which those characters are coming from. You're creating the world in which your idea is based in. But everything right now is a sequel, an adaptation, or a remake. And we need original ideas. There's enough writers out there. You got to have one original thought in your head. Come on.
So, totally agree that I see where you're coming from, but is there truly anything original anymore?
That's what I'm saying. Ideas have been done, but it's the place that you're coming from. And like I said, there's a difference between being derivative and being original. Because being like, okay, a buddy cop movie's been done before. A rom-com has been done before, as opposed to, all right, we're going to do another Superman, another Mission Impossible, another Maverick, another Top Gun, another this, where you're just rehashing the same characters.
Okay, but I'm going to call you out on this because you love Mission Impossible.
I do. And that's how I started this. I said it doesn't mean they're bad. We're just in an era now where everything is a remake, a sequel, or an adaptation.
I would argue that it's not the major problem. I do agree there should be original ideas. I do definitely believe that because there used to be.
I love Mission Impossible. It's my favorite franchise.
Majority of the reason that the sequels, the adaptations, and all those things seem just too much and a lot of them suck and all that stuff is not because the writers can't come up with new ideas, it's because the writers can't be faithful to source material. And the writers can't be faithful to what fans are looking for.
Here's my thing. I love Chick-fil-A. I could eat Chick-fil-A every single day. And I could eat the same thing every single day. I love mac and cheese. I could eat mac and cheese every single day for the rest of my life and never get tired of it. I could never get tired of Star Wars. I could never get tired of Lord of the Rings. I could never get tired of Rocky. I could go on and on. I could never get tired of Mission Impossible. So if it's the same concept over and over and over again, if it's well written and well done and they take their time and they don't go away from the source material, I will take it all day long and on Sunday.
But that's the problem. Because the longer something goes on, and we've seen this with other franchises and other things, and it's my biggest fear with Mission Impossible, which is my favorite film franchise. And I love Top Gun Maverick. But at some point, you got to be like, this is good, let's leave it alone. Because the longer something goes on, the bigger chance there is that what you said, as long as it's good, it can keep going, that doesn't happen. Because I would argue, and this is a whole other episode, that Mission Impossible from 1 to 6 was exactly what a franchise was meant to be, where every movie was incrementally better than the one before it. You could put them in any order you wanted to, and they were all that close and everything. And I was like, as much as I want more, it's like the longer it goes on, the bigger chance it is that they're gonna mess it up. And I really liked 7, but that was the first one that I felt like wasn't incrementally better than the one before it, which was 6. I think it's solidly in the middle. But that's my worry, is like the longer you go with something that's already established, the bigger chance it's going to mess up. We saw it with The Last James Bond, which was very divisive. We've seen it with a lot of the Marvel stuff where they've just kept piling on, and you're just like, okay, you're starting to miss. Like, and so when you're coming up with your own idea, your own thing, nobody... like people obviously aren't going to like it. No, 100% of people aren't going to like a movie. That's just the way it is. But at least you can say, all right, well, that's my idea. That's my script. Those are my characters. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But if you're taking something that's already established, I mean, look what happened when Disney took on Star Wars. You said you can't get enough Star Wars.
Let's not even.
You said you can't get enough Star Wars, but look what happened.
Listen, final thought. I don't think it's always about time frame and the length something goes on. Something can go on and still be beloved.
Oh, it's not all about
It's a
that.
matter
It's definitely a part of it.
Boardrooms and people that have no idea the actual content that they're trying to make money off of, pushing stuff out and hiring writers that don't know what the content is and pushing their own agendas. And that's what's destroying franchises because they're all worried about money and not about storytelling and not about the heart of what people are wanting.
And we're definitely going to have an entire episode based around this, so there's a lot more we could say on that in the future. But until then, this has been our unpopular opinion episode. It obviously got a little heated in here. We're going to take a break after this and reset. But I'm Roman. That's Ty. That's Austin. We are the Cinema Squad. Please like and subscribe for more content just like this, and we'll see you on the next one.
And Roman's going to ask for forgiveness after this is over.